in. Um, it took last minute kick for a Liverpool side to be able to break down a very stubborn Nottingham Forest side. Our own Tolu Arukudare, um, he was given an opportunity and decided to dash the goalkeeper the ball. They ended up losing 1-0 to Crystal Palace. And the fortress, Fulham travelled to Sunderland. Yes, Liverpool already did it and were able to dispatch Sunderland. Arsenal, with all the pressure, they ended up, winning their game. They ended up winning their game emphatically. Let's start with the game of Man City Newcastle. What do you make of that particular game so far?
So I watched the Man City Newcastle game, right, and again, this is why I genuinely believe that Arsenal can go all the way to win the league this season. Every time you watch a Man City match, and if you check their record this season, they've dropped more points in the second half this season. I think they dropped about 11 points in the second half, especially when they've gone ahead in the first half. Just watch the second half of Man City Newcastle. Newcastle dominated play. All
True.
through.
Very true.
Newcastle was dominant throughout the second half. They just were not able to, ensure that the final third, they were better in the final third and they were not able to take their chances. That was the only thing that stopped Newcastle, from winning that match. And of course, just like the Liverpool Man City match, towards the end in the 90th, towards the additional time, Man City had chances where they could, finally bury the game, which they did not take. But again, as I was saying, I'm saying that Man City and Newcastle, it was end to end. It was end to end. Man City scored, Newcastle equalized. Man City scored again. Newcastle even equalized, but it was a Dambon offside, and that was, you know, it was quite tactical from Ruben Diaz, pushing Dan Ball and ensuring that it was offside right as the free kick was going to be taken. And I believe that if he was an Arsenal defender that did what Ruben Diaz did, it was going to be a totally different ball game. But because it is Man City now, everybody is saying, "Oh, that was quite brilliant from Ruben Diaz," ensuring that the player was set offside, and that was it. But as I said, that was a beautiful match. He gave what he was supposed to give, both of them end to end, especially because Man City had defeated Newcastle twice in the EFL Cup, leading to that match. Newcastle obviously added they had a point to prove. They wanted to show that, you can't just sweep us under the carpet every time that we come to play. But you can't take it away from Man City as well. Thumbs up to them. They did what they were expected to. They kept the play up until the very end, because it is not so much about how you start now in the English Premier League. It's so much as well, how do you finish? How do you finish? Look at them against Liverpool. Look at Man City against Liverpool. They went behind with a super slice free kick, right? And they still, went all the way to win that match. As I said, how do you finish? And Man City were able to manage the game in the second half and eventually came out to win. So thank God to them for that.
Let's go to another game that was a bit disappointing. Where I was on Saturday, a whole lot of investors were doing this. They were doing this. They were tearing paper. A whole lot of investors were tearing paper. I mean,
Wow.
what was Fofana thinking? The first yellow card was a needless yellow card. And the second yellow card, the whole of people might debate this. But I mean, why do you throw tantrums to get a yellow card? And for me, Roseno, a lot of people feel the honeymoon is over. The new coach bounce, the placebo effect, is wearing off. And that's the reason why you are seeing cracks. Yes, they considered a very late goal, but out of 6 games now, he has won 4, drew 2, and the last one he drew against Leeds. The performance was a bit terrible. So, what do you make of that particular game? Um, Chelsea dropping points again.
You know, when Wesley Fofana got the red card, I thought to myself, you are a professional footballer, for crying out loud. And it's baffling why they do what they do. Because this is not you've been playing football for years, right? You've been playing football for years, and when you're on a yellow, it's just wise for you to know that you can't just, tackle as you would deem fit. Dan Bond in Newcastle Man City was got a yellow card from like the 7th or the 8th minute of the match. and he played full 90 minutes without considering any silly foul in that sense, right? Without considering any silly foul in that sense. So why do professional players, why do they put themselves under, or their club as it is, under such unnecessary pressure? I don't seem to get it. I don't seem to get it. And you know what? Thumbs up to Burnley, the way they came out, especially after, of course, they had an advantage of a man, and they were able to pile pressure on Chelsea. But then again, you want to ask, why did Chelsea not take their chances prior to the red card? You had a Cole Palmer who was true on goal, right? A ball that you would expect that he's supposed to dispatch easily. Yes, you would expect that he dispatches that ball easily, just like the miss against Leeds United, the last kick of the game.
Okay.
He
Yeah.
and he right in front of goal.
And the post.
And yes, he missed that, right? And then again, he and the goalkeeper. Right? These are chances, and this is what. Sorry to always bring in Arsenal, but this is what Mikel Arteta usually say. The individual, it's just a margin. These are the things that cost you the match or wins you the match.
Sure.
It doesn't cost you the match or wins you. If Cole Palmer had dispatched that goal, right? There's more pressure on Burnley, and even if you go a man down and they score 2-1, they still have another goal to score, which would obviously be much more difficult to come over, But because they do not take their chances prior to Fofana's red card, we see what happened with even Burnley almost won that match at
One.
the end
That's true. At the end,
with
that's true.
another corner kick.
Correct.
Almost the same style of play, the same way it happened with Fleming's goal was the same way the second corner kick also happened, right? And it would have been a beautiful win for Burnley, because they definitely needed that win to even cement their place in the Europe competition this season, right? But then again, as I said, with Liam Rosenau, of course you said it. The new coach bounce is beginning to wear off. People are beginning to demand results, and that's the cruelty of the EPL. That's the cruelty of the EPL. If I'll quickly bring that to Manchester United as well. If Michael Carrick is unable to deliver today, people are beginning to ask questions. Oh, the dopamine rush of the first 4 wins, they will wear off.
It's
So
real.
that's the cruelty of the EPL. The dopamine will wear off. People will begin to ask questions. People will begin to say, "Oh, why did you not leave Amorim? Why did we sack?" Do you know? People will begin to ask questions, right? And that's the same thing that's happening with Liam Rosenthal right now. He needs to be able to get his players together. But personally, I obviously do not want them to see them both get together against Arsenal, because their next match is against Arsenal
Well,
in
that's
the
true.
English Premier League, right? The English Premier League. And is a match that Arsenal obviously has to win. So, but looking at that match against Burnley, as I said, they only needed to dispatch the chances that they had, because you go a man down, obviously you would have to defend your goal, and there won't be too many chances for you to go up front to be able to try to score, right? And they were not able to do that, and Burnley were able to capitalize on that advantage and even almost won the match. So again, Chelsea just has to get their head right back, because they are fighting for a Champions League space, for a Champions League place. They're fighting for a Champions League place. Manchester United, Chelsea, and Liverpool, they're all on 45 points,
45 points.
and
Yeah.
the all on
So
45 points. And if Manchester United wins their match today, they go 3 points behind Aston Villa. They go 3 points behind Aston Villa. And at this point, that is why we'll quickly move into the Liverpool game, if you would allow me.
yeah,
You see that it was
go ahead.
important that Liverpool won that match yesterday. It was important. Chelsea already dropped the points, so there was no way Liverpool could have afforded to drop a point as well, knowing fully well what's at stake. They are no
But
longer
but
they are
but
no
but but
longer
but,
going to be
but in that
gone.
game, Liverpool was very poor. I watched that game and I was bored to
Oh
death. I was bored to
yes,
death. Salah could
yes they
not
were.
get his rhythm.
Oh yes they were.
Ekitike, they had to Ngomoa, the guy that scored the late goal against Newcastle in the first leg.
Newcastle.
Yeah, when he came in, that was when we saw his spark, and that was the person
Oh,
that his movements resulted into what caused the goals. The
because the
first
goal.
Salah goal,
Oh,
the first Salah
mm-hmm.
goal, then the second, his movement caused the foul that led to that cross and the rest of that. I mean, what is going on with the Liverpool side, especially under and it's not, they look like a shadow of themselves. Salah,
Mm.
Cody Gakpo, all of them look like a shadow of themselves.
You see the Via that boy, that Via Ngumoa, right? He obviously needs to prove himself. He needs to prove himself, which is why you'd see that every time he comes on for Liverpool, he's attacking, he's attacking minded, and the way he plays, he tells that his quality is he has the quality. His talent is there for everyone to see. And the way that he disturbed Nottingham's Forest defense yesterday was, eventually he obviously led to what led to the first goal, which was disallowed, and then McAllister scoring again, which was I mean, Liverpool fans would obviously thank their gods for that, right? And with Liverpool this season, you just want to. I genuinely do not want to bring Diogo Jota into this. Rest is soul, right? God rest his soul. But this is the same thing I say, that the way we fans, the way we see football is obviously not the way footballers are playing. It's obviously not the way they think about it. That loss was obviously going to affect their psyche moving forward. It was going to. Because there's no way you come in to the training center and you're not seeing figments, or you're not having figments of his species, of
True,
Diogo Jota
true,
around and all of those things. And
true.
he obviously, he just eats you that this guy is no longer with us and all of those things. But
That's
but
true.
then again, you question what exactly is going on with Liverpool at this point in time. The right back, for instance, the right back position, for instance, they are constantly having, defensive woes with the right back. They're constantly having defensive woes. You can even argue that Virgil van Dijk and Ibrahim Konate have not been the best this season.
No,
You've not been at their best.
very obvious. That's very obvious with the kind of goals they
You've
concede.
not been at their best this season. And even the Milos Kekes that was brought in to replace Andrew Robertson as well, the way they play this season is questionable. It is not that the quality is not there, right? Of course, that one is never in doubt. I mean, they are champions for a reason. They are champions for a reason, right? So you cannot say that the quality is not there. But just in terms of their style of play this season, this is not the Liverpool that you would expect. This is not the Liverpool that would go all the way, right? In the English Premier League last season, you saw how that whenever Liverpool dropped points, Arsenal failed to capitalize and Arsenal dropped points. But the
True,
next match, Liverpool would win. You would see
true.
them go all out to win, and they did it consistently until they established a wide margin that Arsenal could just not capitalize on anymore. But then you just question what exactly is going on, and I genuinely think that it has to do with their psychology this season. I think that a whole lot has happened to them in the back room this season, and it's affecting their style of play. The Salah's issue as well. That's another thing, right? Salah is a legend of not just Liverpool Football Club, but of the English Premier League. The number
True.
most, as in terms of assists, in terms of goals, in terms of player of the season, the statistics are there for you to see that Salah is obviously top of the English Premier League charts generally overall, right? But then again, you see the drop in form, and you just wonder, if Mo Salah drops in form, who exactly comes on to replace him? Who do you want to bring on? Real Ngumuna? No. If Cody Gakpo comes on, if for instance we say that Cody Gakpo comes on in place of Musala, and then to ensure that you cushion the effect, you bring in a Curtis Jones, it won't still be as effective as you would normally expect from a Liverpool side. If,
That's true.
for instance, the only thing is, for instance, if they had Alexander Isak not injured and then he was up front, then you can now say, okay, let's have a Cody Gakpo and Ugo
Mm,
Etiti. Why we have Alexander Isak up front, and then we still have Florian Wirtz playing right behind them? But that's not possible right now because Isak is injured. And even Cody Gakpo, his style of play and his talent this season, not his talent, but his footballing quality this season has been called to question, right?
that's very
So
true.
again, I just genuinely think that Liverpool just have to try as much as possible to do whatever they can, because right now they obviously cannot win the Premier League anymore. That's not in
Obviously,
place. That's
that's
not in
true.
place. That's not. What they can do right now, I do not think they're in the FA Cup anymore, or they are not in the EFL anymore. They're not in the EFL anymore. So that's another title that they cannot win, obviously. They
True.
have just FA Cup and the Champions League
True.
to contend for. And they need to qualify for the Champions League. They need to qualify for the Champions League. And if you ask me, do they have the quality to go all the way? Yes.
Yes.
I think that Aston Villa will be the one to drop.
Drop out because I mean they've been
Think
terrible.
that Aston Villa will be the one to drop. And I think Aston Villa will be the one to drop because he's giving a Nottingham Forest of last season. He's giving that style. They are already beginning. Yes. They are beginning to give that style. Aston Villa will give you everything. You will call Unai Emery the best coach after the best, and already he's beginning to show. It's beginning to show. This is the reason why people banter Arsenal that towards the final lap you do not have what it takes to go all the way.
To
It's
go on,
beginning to
that's
show
true.
with Aston Villa as well.
That's true.
It's beginning to show with Aston Villa. And the reason why Aston Villa might not be able to go all the way is because of the quality of teams behind them.
True.
Manchester United, Chelsea, Liverpool. These are teams that have proven it over and over. These are teams that know exactly what it takes to be in the Champions League. In the Champions League, sorry. These are teams that know what it takes to go all the way to the finish line. So if these three teams, Man U, Chelsea, Liverpool, if they bring their A game in the next 10 matches, in the next 10, 11 matches, Aston Villa needs to be real. Aston Villa needs to be real. So, yeah.
So the biggest game of the weekend. Um, I for one, I I was scared for Arsenal. I was on the show on Friday, and one of the things I said was I think this might be the weekend that Arsenal loses the league finally. I was scared of Tottenham rather. I thought the new coach bounce that we usually see with clubs changing coaches will happen again. And
Mm,
when Arsenal scored first, and Declan Rice decided to have a blood rush into his head and decided to make that mistake, and Kolomwani handed Kolomwani the opportunity, I felt there we go again. Arsenal decided to bottle it. But in the second half, we saw a different Arsenal side.
yes.
Eberechieze was unplayable. Bukayo Saka, I'm hoping that he's not injured again because I mean he had a knock and he had to be taken out. Um, Eberechieze was unplayable. He was in a class of his own. Goe Kores, somebody who the stats does not speak well of, came out in that particular game and scored again. What do you make of that performance? And that's a performance that sends message to our
Yes.
to Man City and the rest. Don't count us.
Yes.
Don't write us off. We are still the leaders of the Premier League.
Now, here's the thing with Arsenal's match yesterday. I looked at Igor Tudor's what's it called managerial career, and the stats are not favorable for him, to be honest. He's always getting the sack. However, what he does well is that he wins his first match for the teams that he has coached. He wins the first match. So when I saw that, I'm like, oh my god. This match, what happened with this match was this was the match that was going to cement Arsenal's season in terms of whether or not they can show, not even that they can, not just that they can prove or they can even show that they have what it takes to go all the way to win. Especially after what happened against Wolves. So many fans, became dejected. How do you drop points to Wolves,
To
especially
Wolves.
after taking a
Hmm.
lead? How do you do that? And the question, the mentality of the team is questioned. But that is why I said that Arsenal is the one team that can stop themselves from winning the EPL this season. And I say that because look at that match yesterday. Odegaard did not start. Odegaard did not start. You did not bring on a Gabriel Jesus. You did not bring on Martinelli up until later, right? And just look at what Mikel Arteta did, substituting Timber for Mosquera. That was brilliant.
Timber was on the yellow card anyway.
That was brilliant. That was brilliant. You see what that Mosquera boy? Oh my God! Look at he's a colossus. Look at the way and he's playing right back. He can play both centre backs. He can play left back as well. That's a beautiful talent right there, right? And that match, it was not just enough that Arsenal won the match. They needed to win in statement style so that people know. Because if, for instance, Tottenham received the red card and then Arsenal won, people would have still questioned, it's because they got the red card. Arsenal had won 2-1. We would have been happy, but people would still say, they
So
just
it's really like 2-1. They shall manage to win.
It was not going to, but look at the way Arsenal played yesterday. And another thing is, you see when it comes to Arsenal, I know that up front people are questioning the goals, the assists, and all of those things. But look at Bukayo Saka yesterday. Just watch Saka yesterday. The way it's a North London derby. And coming from A end, he obviously know what it means. The way he played yesterday, he was on a class of his own, right? Saka was dribbling into the box 18.
Sure.
This is not something that this is something you would expect of him, but you don't see him do that like in very large games.
Yeah.
But look at yesterday. And if anybody does not watch that match now, you're not going to rely on goals and assist statistics or whatever now. You begin to question Saka's quality. Yes, you begin to question Saka's quality. But look at the way he played yesterday. It was up, it was there. It was right there. And as I said again, you take nothing away from Victor Gyökeres. This is a striker. The way he hits the ball, the way he hits the ball, the way he hits the ball, is you see, Arsenal has the quality to go all the way to win the EPL. Arsenal has the quality to go all the way to win the EPL, and that's why I maintain that the match against Man City next month in the Carabao Cup final, the EFL Cup final, that match will say a lot about who is going to win the English Premier League or not. I kid you not. That match is going to say a lot. That match is going to say a lot. I don't want to say the opposite. I'm going to stick on the positive now for this positive now for Arsenal. If Arsenal are able to win the EFL Cup, right, it helps them a lot in ways that probably they might not even know yet. In ways that they might not know yet, it helps them a lot. The adrenaline rush that is going to give, the conversations that are going to happen on social media, the conversations that are going to happen, the way fans will go all the way, with the team. You just know, and you know that these things affect players. The way fans are connected with the team now, especially when Mikel Arteta Arsenal, it will affect Arsenal, right? And if Arsenal are able to just go all the way to win the EFL Cup, the way the fans will be much more connected, and as I said, the types of conversations that will be happening after that EFL win, the players know that right now it is in our hands to go all the way to win this trophy, not just for ourselves to become legends of the team, right? But for the fans who have not seen us carry the EPL in 22 years,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So it is important that the quality of players that Arsenal have now, they are able to maintain them. And thankfully, Havertz, as we heard, is going to be back against Chelsea.
Yes.
Against next week.
It's already back in training.
That's another additional firepower to the Arsenal side. And Tottenham, let's quickly talk about Tottenham for a minute, right? I do not think that the quality of the coaches that Tottenham brings in is the problem.
So what's the problem?
Brings in. I think the problem is with the mindset of Tottenham the culture of Tottenham as a whole. The culture of Tottenham as a whole, right? And Postecoglou is a very, very what's it called now? Poignant of vital example to what I want to say. The Son Heung-min's miss against Man City. Tottenham fans were celebrating.
Yeah, that's true. I remember that.
See, The coach, that's why I said the culture of the team. The first thing Mikel Arteta had to do when he came to Arsenal was to change the culture.
Well,
And how did he
that's
do
true.
it?
That's important.
He took out the quote unquote top players, Aubameyang, stripped him of captains,
Lacazette.
Mesut Ozil, you can't do this, Lacazette, come on. He called back Granit Xhaka, made Granit Xhaka, if Arsenal fans are to talk about Granit Xhaka now, they won't talk about the annoying Granit Xhaka. They'll talk about the leader that was without the armband, especially in his last season with Arsenal, and that was
Sure.
that was a Mikel Arteta thing, because we all knew that Granit Xhaka was already leaving the club, but Mikel
Sure.
Arteta brought him back. So the culture has to be changed. The fans are much more interested in banter than in trophy. To be
Trophy.
honest,
That's true.
they are much
That's
more interested in banter than in trophy.
You are very
And if you are
correct.
much more interested in trophy, or if you are much interested in banter, it tells. It tells. Football is now much more connected than just 11 players on the field of play. It is not just you guys. It is not just the guys on the field of play now. It is the players. It is the fans. It is the coach. It is the directors. Everybody has a role to play. If Tottenham fans demand much more from their team, there's no stopping this team.
Definitely.
If Tottenham fans demand much more, there's no stopping. But Tottenham fans, they are comfortable. They are comfortable. That's what I see. They are comfortable with the mediocre performance that their team puts in, week out. Tottenham has not won a home game in 2026.
I mean,
They've not won a home game.
that's
So,
that that's a terrible start. I mean, no
and
win in 2026.
Tim Sherwood, in the second before the second half, he said that these fans want to destroy Arsenal's title match. Tim Sherwood, he said it yesterday. That's what they want to do. They know that they cannot progress, so they want to destroy Arsenal's title charge. Meanwhile, they're supposed to look inward and call for much more from
Sure.
themselves
Sure.
and from their team as a
Sure.
whole. But they're not doing that. And it tells. Now you want to tell me that you the likes of Gareth Bale, the likes of Harry Kane, the likes of Modric, who these players have gone all the way to do exceptionally well in other clubs. Are you questioning their quality?
No. They have the
Questioning their
quality.
quality.
They have the quality.
They are, but okay, in terms of managers, Pochettino got them to the finals of the Champions League. Pochettino got them to the finals of the Champions League. We've had Jose Mourinho, some people will call the GOAT
Mm-hmm.
of coaching, right? That's Jose Mourinho. We have Antonio Conte, who has done it in every league he has gone to. Antonio Conte has done it in every league that you can imagine. But look at what's happening to Tottenham team. Just look at what's happening to them. Again, the culture that's in that club is questionable. Until they change that culture, they won't go all the way. They won the Europa League last season. If you win the Europa League last season, what is stopping you from positioning yourself so well this season that you are fighting for the Champions League this season? Tottenham are now lounging in 16th position.
They're,
16th position.
they're in the relegation battle.
Fighting for relegation, just 2 points off Nottingham Forest.
Nottingham Forest. They are
2 points off
29.
Nottingham
Nottingham Forest
Forest.
is 27.
Fighting for relegation. If just imagine that by any stroke of chance, Nottingham Forest, Tottenham would have been in relegation battle right now. They'll be 17th,
That's true.
right?
That's very true.
So
That's very true.
again, like I said, it's just the culture of Tottenham. They need to change their culture, and until they change their culture, nothing is going to go forward for them.
Okay. That's interesting. Let's switch over to